While our main masterclass decodes the very fabric of reality, today we are taking a special detour. Welcome to a standalone deep dive. We are stepping outside our main series to bring you an ancient, highly practical blueprint for modern chaos. We plan to bring you more of these special episodes to expand your mental arsenal. So, let's unlock today's lesson. Prepare to shift your perspective.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unlock the secrets of an ancient, incredibly private diary that honestly just might hold the ultimate blueprint for modern resilience. We're diving deep into the mind of a Roman emperor to figure out how a text written roughly 2,000 years ago can totally transform how we handle the chaos of our lives today. It's a question we all ask ourselves, right? How do you actually stay calm when the whole world feels like it's falling apart? Between the constant distractions, global anxieties, and just dealing with incredibly difficult people on a daily basis, it is so easy to feel completely overwhelmed. But what if I told you that the unexpected solution to our modern burnout comes directly from a guy who arguably had the single most stressful job in the ancient world?
Section 1. The Philosopher King.
Okay, to really get this diary, we have to look past those dusty marble busts you see in museums. We need to look at Marcus Aurelius as a deeply stressed executive, desperately trying to hold a fracturing empire together. Just visualize the sheer majesty and the immense, crushing burden of his position as commander-in-chief of the Roman Empire. This wasn't some cushy ceremonial role, you know? He was managing an empire that spanned continents. He was leading armies. He was dealing with massive existential crises. The weight of the world was quite literally on his shoulders. And here is the great paradox of his life. On one side, you have absolute worldly power, immense wealth, and command over millions of people. On the other side, he harbored this really deep, profound desire for simple, philosophical quiet. At his core, he was a peaceful man who was essentially forced by duty to wage brutal wars, and he was constantly seeking the quiet solace of philosophy amidst all that deafening chaos.
To put that chaos into perspective, just take a quick look at the timeline of his rule. He's born in 1201 AD, and he takes the throne in 161. By 169 AD, his co-emperor dies while they're actively battling not just invading barbarian tribes from the north, but a devastating plague and widespread starvation. And finally, he dies in a military camp in 180 AD. I mean, he ruled during incredibly turbulent times, writing his famous meditations in a freezing war tent literally just to keep himself sane.
Section 2. The Stoic Operating System. So, how did he keep his mind intact during these relentless crises? Well, he relied on a very specific mental framework, Stoicism. At the very core of this operating system is their definition of virtue, which is to live consistently and in conformity with nature, consciously working with God or the universal providence for the common good. It absolutely wasn't about bearing your emotions like some kind of robot. It was about aligning yourself perfectly with the natural world and really recognizing your duty to humanity.
To actually achieve this, Stoicism is broken down into 3 distinct branches. First, you have physics, which is all about understanding the universe and knowing that everything is interconnected. Second is logic, which means training your mind to test your impressions and discern what's true from what's false. And third, ethics, taking all of that high-level knowledge and applying it strictly to practical everyday life. Marcus structured his entire view of reality through this highly logical, incredibly grounded lens.
Now, the crucial point in Stoicism is a strict division of control. The Stoics meticulously separated what we can control from what we cannot. Things in our power, our own desires, our opinions, our affections. Things not in our power, our health, our wealth, our public honor. By completely detaching his self-worth from those external circumstances that he simply couldn't control, Marcus managed to find this unshakable inner fortress of peace.
Section 3. The Power of Gratitude.
To see how he practically applied this philosophy, let's look at Book 1 of his Meditations. Because before he complains about the cold, or the wars, or the plague, Marcus actively grounds himself in gratitude. He methodically lists exactly what he owes to his family and his mentors. To his grandfather, he owes his gentleness. To his mother, his religious devotion and bountifulness. To his tutor, Rusticus, the humbling realization that his own character actually needed a cure and redress. He didn't focus on what he lacked. He focused entirely on what he had been given.
He also paid super close attention to the virtues of those around him. For example, he praises his teacher Apollonius for his true liberty and unvariable steadfastness, and not to regard anything at all, though never so little, but right and reason.
Marcus was literally dissecting the good qualities of his friends and teachers to build a mental template for his own character. He studied them to learn how to be a better human being.
Section 4. Mastering the Inner Self. But, what about the people who weren't so virtuous? Shifting over to Book 2, Marcus tackles a universal problem that is just as relevant today as it was back then. Think about your own life for a second. How do you deal with truly awful, ungrateful people on a daily basis? Bring to mind your own modern annoyances. Maybe it's internet trolls, terrible coworkers, or just aggressive drivers in traffic. 2,000 years ago, an emperor with the power to legally execute anyone who annoyed him was asking himself this exact same question.
And here is his brilliant, totally famous morning meditation. Before even stepping out of his tent, he mentally armors himself by saying, "This day I shall have to do with an idle, curious man, with an unthankful man, a railer, a crafty, false, or an envious man." He actually anticipates the friction. He prepares his mind for the absolute worst of human behavior, so that when it inevitably happens, he isn't surprised or thrown off balance at all.
But he doesn't stop at just bracing himself for impact. He follows it up with this profound empathy. He says, "For we are all born to be fellow workers." He even goes on to compare humanity to the upper and lower rows of teeth. To work in opposition to one another, he says, is entirely against nature. He recognizes that even the most frustrating, ignorant people are part of his own human community. They act out of ignorance of what is truly good, and therefore they deserve his patience, not his wrath.
Section 5. The Cosmic Perspective.
When dealing with the daily grind just wasn't enough, Marcus zoomed way out for his ultimate coping mechanism. He reminds himself that life is a warfare and a mere pilgrimage, that seeking fame after life is completely pointless, no better than oblivion, because the people remembering you will soon be dead too. He views the whole earth as just a tiny point in space and the world as a single city. When you shrink the universe down and view your life from a cosmic scale like that, your daily anxieties instantly lose their power over you.
And this brilliantly illustrates his ultimate, basically unconquerable mindset. He writes that when a great fire prevails upon the things in its way, it actually consumes them to grow larger. He literally trains himself to treat every single obstacle, whether it's a plague, an invading army, or just a treacherous colleague, not as a roadblock, but as actual fuel to feed his own inner fire and practice virtue.
This inner fire leads to the ultimate goal of the meditations, to build an invincible, tranquil mind, free from all confusion and tumultuousness. Despite commanding armies, facing betrayals, losing children, and ruling a fracturing empire, Marcus Aurelius managed to carve out a sanctuary of peace entirely within his own mind. Which leaves us with this final, really important thought. If a Roman emperor facing endless war, devastating plague, and the total burden of the ancient world could sit in a cold tent and find true inner peace, what's stopping you? Next time you face a frustrating day, remember the Stoic Operating System. Look inward and use those obstacles as fuel for your own fire. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it helps you build your own inner fortress.
We are building a massive library of knowledge here. Alongside our main series, we will keep bringing you these powerful standalone lessons. But I need to hear from you. Did you enjoy this different topic? Drop a comment below and let me know what concepts you want us to decode next. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and as always, find your stillness.